5 days a week.
On the Move, weekdays, 9 a.m. to midday.
Only on Channel Africa. #On the Move.
Hey, there's no recipe for good behavior. You can't just wake up one day and feel like you have actually got everything right in your life. And at times, we start off this life thing on a way that we kind of trying to figure it out. And at times, we find ourselves doing the wrong. And then we find that is something that defines us, that is something that we think makes us who we are. Especially when you commit a crime, when you've done something really, really wrong to people around you, it feels like you can never be given a second chance and you can't really start all over again. And sometimes it's people who do that person did that. So that means they'll always remain like that. You know, people always define you by not what you say, but really about what you've done, not what you actually do. Even if you are in that recovery of straightening the wrongs and trying to make them the rights, it's very tough for people to actually believe you can actually turn the tide around. What does it truly mean to start all over again? How do you rise from the darkest chapters of your life and choose to grow over guilt, also to really go beyond being a victim? We explore the untold journey of transformation after incarceration in today's show. Joining us on the line is Mpho Bojwa Maponya, an entrepreneur, an author, and founder of Bojwa Group, and who turned 12-year sentence. That's what Bojwa did. A 12-year sentence at Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Center in South Africa's capital city of Pretoria. And he said, you know what, this is a very difficult period in my life, and I'm going to turn it into a foundation of new life of purpose. I'm going to try actually turn things around and have more of impact. Bojwa, thank you for joining us here on Channel Africa.
Yes, Brother Benjamin,
you sound fantastic now. Let's talk a little bit about, reflecting back, because we can't start where you are right now. Let's talk about what actually got you in prison. How did you end up with a 12-year sentence at Kgosi Mampuru Correctional Center?
Yeah, well, my brother, it was a long journey. And it was a difficult one. Because of the life choices as I was a young man. So at a point in my life, I took a very wrong decision, a wrong choice, and a little action right. So what really happened and what led me to being at the University of Life as prison was that I took a life of somebody and got the actions malicious, and by not thinking straight and being overpowered by your emotions and turmoil. So basically what happened is there was an altercation that involved money, financial arguments and which led to, grappling each other and to a fight. And that, resulted in the next person, so it wasn't really, an easy task. I don't want to lie to you, because the moment that happened, I could feel my life has changed.
Yeah.
Direction.
Absolutely. I mean, let's pause there a little bit, because now you are literally a murderer. And at that point, I'm saying these things because we're going somewhere with this conversation. I'm not pinpointing or pinpointing that as something that makes your identity right now, but it's the gravity of what you have done. And when you are in that particular moment, you spent 12 years in correctional services, and that process must have been one that was also difficult for you. What happens when you actually are in that position that people will always say, that guy, Bojwa, he's a murderer. that guy is always going to be seen in that sense. How do you get out of that as someone who's, yes, you've committed a crime, yes, you've been punished for that crime, but now you also have to start redefining yourself and starting to try and change your life? It's not easy, isn't it, Bojwa?
No, true, Mr. Benjamin. It's really not easy to be, labeled. But just to, kikenye taba straight, what really happened is I was sentenced to 12 years direct imprisonment in 2019 by the Pretoria Magistrate Court. So now I did not spend the entire 12 years inside the prison walls. So what happens is I am currently out on parole from good behavior, and also, being able to complete, the necessary programs, for rehabilitation that, we are to, complete while we are in there. So I spent 6.5 years right inside the walls, and I can tell you the weight did not immerse when I entered prison. The weight actually started from the very same moment the incident took place. I could feel that a lot of things will change in my life. I could feel that I'm now heading a direction that I do not know, I do not understand, and I do not know where it's leading me to. So already I was being darkened by this cloud of not being able to see my path, my dreams. I could feel that my dreams were falling apart. My workplace, my job was now vulnerable. I was not even knowing for it. How am I going to deal with this? The people who once respected me, the people who once laughed with me, there was a lot of change in treatment, in, being out of the circle, So it took a lot of weight. I don't want to lie to you. It took a lot of weight. And it even became worse when I entered the walls of the University of Life. And I can tell you, it took me time to accept the actions of the consequences of my actions. It took a lot of time to be on that level where now I started questioning myself so deep that only I could answer, the questions. But how I wanted to answer them was to script them down. So what I did was almost every morning when I wake up, just to give myself that strength, that hope that one day it's going to be okay for whatever that has happened. I know I'll find forgiveness, and I know I'll get back into the community with strength, with resilience, So what really happened is now I'll start scripting these thoughts. Now I'm speaking to the inner person. I'm starting to script these thoughts to a point where now these thoughts filled up a book. And I'm like, okay, now I think I need to just write an entire book and put my answers of this journey in those questions.
I want to speak a little bit about your book, because it's not everyone that enters prison that actually becomes rehabilitated, right? You call this the prison the University of Life, and you get in there, and some people might have been first offenders but then continue with a life of crime once in prison, because it's not an easy environment. It's a hard environment, and it's also an environment where you also need to survive in there as well. So how did you decide that, by penning down your thoughts, by writing this book, that's going to be your journey towards a better life? And did that process actually help you forgive yourself for, the deeds that you had done, but also think about how you can, become a better person from that time?
Yeah.
Yes, says Palesa. So what really happened is now when I started writing the book, Bojwa, when I named it Bojwa, a graduate student from the University of Life. Now, the University of Life is actually a metaphor for the idea that life itself is the greatest lesson. So when I wrote this book and I titled it A Graduate Student, I felt like I'm at a campus, I'm at an institution for learning. And the reason I say so is because of part of these questions were now asking myself, why do I find myself now alone, cut off my normalcy, the life that I know? What is life wanting me to learn from this? Why am I in here with this, case that brought me to prison? Why is it like a heavy case? And I've met a lot of people that, they come with minor, minor offenses, and I've asked myself, why am I in this heaviness? And that's when I started looking at it as, now I need to start learning from all of these mistakes because they've happened for a reason. So now writing the book was a way for me now to process my emotional turmoil. And I felt now I actually need to share a journey with the people for growth, because I felt I've been through so much. Like I say, my inspiration from this doesn't now emerge from prison only. It emerges from immediately the day when the event occurred. Because
Bojwa, that's very interesting that you say that, because you said you asked yourself, how did I get myself in this mess? How did I get myself here? How am I isolated from the people that once loved me? What were the answers that you got from those questions? Because I think those are important questions, but what were the answers?
I actually believed when I had, to look into those answers, like I said, I've penned them down, and I had to actually look into the fact that now life or the universe or the Heavenly Father, wanted me to be separated from what could have been suppressing me, to look into my own life, to look into my own self, to have a self-reflection, because of the kind of life that I lived before was actually too fast. Like there was focus, there was, a vision, but, I wasn't getting into it. I wasn't having the that I've desired. And, when everything happened, and then that's when I started, taking the toll that, why does life want me to be separated? It's only because that I needed time alone. I needed to have self-reflection. I needed to confront the inner person that is in me. That thought that always speaks to me and nobody can hear. I was asking it questions, and I was finding a way to, understand myself, because I believe, once I can understand the full version of myself, then I can be accepted out in the community as the authentic person that I am, and not the person that I'm trying to paint myself with, a color paint that does not match my personality.
Yeah. There's an added layer to your story, because it's one thing to find your resilience within the walls of prison, but there's a whole world on the outside once you get out. Those who still hold you accountable for the bad deeds that you had done, those who see you in a negative light, and those who don't even know that you have changed your life on the inside of prison. Now you want to come you want to integrate into society, but you also want to do good. You got entrepreneurship skills and a book that is out. Tell me about that, if you could, in a very short, form. Tell me about how you integrated back into your society.
Sis Palesa, the first thing that I think I did to myself, through self-reflection, I, started accepting, the consequences, and I had to find a way that can symbolize, new beginnings to me. And that's when I actually, started the clothing brand, the Bojwa concept, when I wrote the book. So I needed something that, I would fall back on and create something out of it and share a message out of it, so that people can learn the real me, rather than, just saying that one little mistakes that I've done, overcomes or overpowers all the good that I've done in my life. So that's where I come with these initiatives, to the people and say, you know what, don't look at me from a distance and think you know me. I've done a mistake and I've accepted my mistake, and I'm really remorseful for what I've done, and I really want to change. And people need to know that I am changed, I am rehabilitated. The University of Life has provided me with the relevant education. Life has taught me, a way forward, and life has taught me to accept and understand. People are not going to love me. We've got 1 billion people on earth, and nobody, not all of them are going to like the concept of me saying, I want to share my story of prison. Some of them, it's not going to resonate with everybody. So not everybody's going to like me. So to those who doesn't like me, to those who just continue to point me with fingers, to those who label me, I'll accept whatever anybody brings, because I need to also continue with my life. I need to focus with my life. On my future and the likes. So I can't be sitting down, with this heaviness that people still look at me in another way. So now I'm venturing into this to say, come on, everybody, I'm not in bed for all of you. I've done my mistakes, but come.
Yeah, I think that's such a remarkable story that you're highlighting, because what happens, Bojwa, is that people stay defined by their mistakes, and I give you so much credit. I know when we started the conversation that I called you a murderer, but I was just trying to highlight the gravity of the crime. But I'm glad that you gave yourself a new name, and at times when people think they have a new name, they don't actually attach actions to that new name. So congratulations to you for giving yourself a new name and actually going forward past that particular mistake. Congratulations to you, mate. Where can people find this particular book, and where can people go to even stay inspired by your story? Because I think we need more of people like you to tell of the story of change and transformation.
Wonderful. So now, you can find, the readers that would, like to, grab this book and, share this journey with me. The book is available on our website, which is www.bojwa.co.za. The book is $350, and that will include your shipping or courier within the South African walls. And with the book, for me, it's a way to process like emotional tenfoil, to share my journey of growth, to inspire, and to those who need, encouragement, to be motivated, to say that even in your darkest moment, it's like there is a way. Within the website, people can also find the Bojwa sweaters. As you can see, I'm wearing one here with the black, with the white. This is also an initiative that I started while I was in prison, and like I say, the book I wrote while I was in prison, and it was actually launched before by my release on parole. So I found the book already running the streets, and
fantastic. That's great.
This clothing brand.
Bojwa, we have to let it go. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Sorry to cut you off there, but all the best and good luck on everything else. And thank you for letting us know where we can find you on different platforms. Thank you for joining us and being vulnerable and sharing your powerful story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great day ahead.
Fantastic. It's 10:33 Central African time. What do you think about that becoming that transformation process? Do you think it's possible, especially if you've been incarcerated? In fact, when you've done something that's very, very bad in society. What's your take about that conversation? +2763 406 9126. Tell us what you think about that one. Well, let's quickly move on. Figile has been waiting patiently to give us our sports update.